Staying on this theme of the trust that we need between people and their government, our next speaker, Holl Lute, is in a very important position inside the government as Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. That may be the biggest government agency that, maybe apart from Social Security, directly touches Americans on a daily basis. And considering that TSA is part of Homeland Security, they really touch Americans. I met Deputy Secretary Lute last year, and we started a conversation which I'm glad to now bring a bit of here to PDF, which is, how does Homeland Security function in a networked age, and how do they think about renewing trust between people and their government? Holl Lute.
Nothing quite says Homeland Security like the Personal Democracy Forum. At least that's how I look at it. When Mika invited me to come speak, I recognized that I might not be a typical person to address this audience, but I was eager to accept. In part, and they asked me to speak quickly, stand in the right place, and keep you along with me. But I'm not prepared to ask you to do anything I'm not prepared to do, so I might not do any of those things. And I have no slides. I spent the first half of my professional life in the military, and they said to me, "Do you have any slides? Do you have a PowerPoint presentation?" I said, "No, I don't ever have slides." So I'm going to talk to you about Homeland Security, because what I discover when I talk about it, and I did spend the first half of my adult life in the military, and I spent most of my adult life in foreign policy, international affairs, and working on violent conflict, and why it seems that there is so much of it in the world, and why we act as if war is the weather. War is not the weather. We shouldn't act like it is. That's what I spent most of my adult life doing before I came back into government as the number 2 in the Department of Homeland Security. And I could talk to you about the statistics that mark Homeland Security. We're the 3rd largest department. You know, our order of business is $1.2 billion a week. Everybody knows DOD is the largest department, a nickel for anybody who knows who's number 2. But stay with me, remember? And what I discovered when I was coming back into government, and you talk about Homeland Security, it has extraordinary brand name recognition. Everybody's heard of it. We have something less than extraordinary brand name understanding. Something less than extraordinary. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I speak about Homeland Security. What is it we're trying to do? How is it we're trying to do it? And importantly, how do we incorporate the kinds of things that you expect your government to deliver to you? You have a right to expect that your government delivers more than the threshold conditions of security, well-being, and justice, and I'll talk a little bit about that in Homeland Security. So when we say Homeland Security, our mission, what is our mission? What we're trying to do is help create a safe, secure, resilient place where the American way of life can thrive. That's our sentence. A safe, secure, resilient place where the American way of life can thrive. Why does this nation have an army? Fight and win the nation's wars. Why do we have peacekeepers in the world? Protect and strengthen fragile peace. It's important to me that we be able to narrate our central and core purpose. And for us in Homeland Security, it's to help create a safe, secure, and resilient place where our way of life can thrive. How do we do it? What do we have to do in order to create that kind of a place? We have to prevent terrorism, prevent another 9/11. I can tell you more than 10 years after 9/11, for some it's already become ancient history. I was in New York that day. My husband worked at the Pentagon. My daughter's school bus went by it. You all know where you were. It will never be ancient history. It will always be a part of the living history of this country and of us. We need to prevent another 9/11. We need to secure our borders, enforce our immigration laws, ensure our cybersecurity. This is new. This is important. I'll talk a little bit about that. And we need to build national resilience. But how do we do it? How do we do these things so that we can create this safe, secure, resilient place? And to answer this, we have to understand how Homeland Security is part of national security, but it's also different. I spent my whole career on in national security. And I can tell you national security is strategic, centralized, and top-driven. Homeland Security is transactional, decentralized, bottom-driven, driven by the municipalities, the states, the localities, the tribes, and the people of this country. National security is dominated, I suppose is the right word, by military intelligence culture centered around Washington. You know that. No brave insights there. Homeland security is a law enforcement culture, emergency response, domestic political culture. National security is about unity of command. Homeland security is about unity of purpose, unity of effort. It's a different model. National security information is shared on the basis of need to know. In Homeland security, what we're trying to do is have a duty to share. A duty to share. It's a different model. Why does this matter? Because when national security, if it's about all of us, Homeland security in a very, very fundamental way is about each of us. So if we're going to do it and we're going to do it well, what does it mean? It means we need a deep understanding of the public as well as the public interest. And this is true not only for our government, frankly, but for governments around the world. I've made some observations as I've been the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. And what I can tell you is there are two major trends that feel very powerful and powerfully influencing government and what governments are doing. On the one hand, there's a trend with what's going on with the public. It's been going on for a very long time. Some say the public is really, really angry. I think that's probably right. What I see as my colleagues and I, we've traveled a lot. I've been negotiating, the lead negotiator on behalf of the United States with the Europeans on a major data sharing arrangement called Passenger Name Records, PNR, if you've heard of it. The publics are angry in Europe as well, it seems. What kind of anger is this? I've been around a lot of social anger. I've been around purposeful social anger where people will kill each other based on that anger. And I've been around this kind of anger, which feels like anxiety-based anger. It feels that there is a deep, and Mika mentioned this, seated anxiety. It feels that anxiety traces to the root that have we really lost the ability to institutionalize trust? People say they don't feel like they can trust any institutions, can't trust the media, can't trust the markets, can't trust iconic figures in our lives. Yes, some people say they can't trust government. I don't believe that's true. But have we truly lost the ability to institutionalize trust? It's not so much that we don't trust these institutions. Do we know how to build trusted institutions? What are their attributes? And as we architect Homeland Security, I certainly want to, build a system that's based on trust, not distrust. Is it safe to fly? Will you be there when I need you? Will you help in times of need? The public has expectations, I think. They're entitled to expectations. I'm a member of the public, too. What are those? They're powerful norms that are emerging, and every government is realizing that. What are those norms? Norms of inclusivity. Nothing about us without us. Norms of transparency. You've talked about that a lot. Norms of reciprocity. If it's good for her, it's good for him. If it's good for you, it's good for me. If I have to do that, we all have to do that. And yes, norms of accountability. It's a cliche to say that the world is changing. I'll say it anyway. It's a cliche. Why is it changing? What is it so profoundly that's going on? Is it technology? It's a little ironic, right? Because technology is precisely the word we use to describe things when tools come into our grasp. And now technology is precisely the word we use when things exceed our grasp. It's high tech. I mean, we're not leaving it to the experts. We're leaving it to the next generation. And I know you're ready. We live in an age when we know before victims do that they'll be victims. Technology is fundamentally changing the world. That's been true for 2 decades. We know before victims do that they'll be victims. What else is going on? Well, from my point of view, I'm increasingly interested in what I call the world's 5 billions. There's only 5 things that I can think of that claim the active affiliation of 1 billion or more people on the planet. Only 5 things. Being Indian, being Chinese, being Catholic, being Muslim, and being on Facebook. Hello? That's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary age. Is there a new economic model emerging? Mankind has historically been organized economically around tribes, around clans, around the family, and now apparently around the friendship. That's extraordinary. The salience of these changes can be seen in everyday life. You know that as well as I do. I talked a little bit about Homeland Security and the importance of the cybersecurity mission. I mentioned it among the 5 things that we think we have to do in order to create a safe, secure, resilient place where the American way of life can thrive. And when we secure our borders, do we want to keep out people and things that might be dangerous? Of course we do. But we also want to expedite legitimate trade and travel. When we enforce our immigration laws, country has a right to know who works within its borders. We want to welcome those who enrich our culture and our economy. But again, maintain the responsibilities that we have as a government. In cybersecurity, the essential job we have to do is to secure our information and our identities. The rest, as we say in my religious tradition, is commentary. The rest is commentary. But how do we do that? And what have we learned so far in this effort to build a safe, secure, resilient place where the American way can thrive, especially when it comes to cybersecurity? We've learned a few lessons, and we believe a few truths. First, cyberspace is civilian space. It is civilian space. And to meet the core challenges of securing identity and securing information, everybody must get involved. There is no single point solution. There's no magic bullet. Somebody said, well, maybe we should see if there's a silver bullet. I said, looking for silver bullets is like looking for dinosaurs in Manhattan. It's not that there are no dinosaurs in Manhattan. There are no dinosaurs. Okay. There are no silver bullets. If we're going to meet this core challenge, everybody has to get involved. And we have to collaborate to maintain an open internet where each experience is secure and not try to achieve security at the expense of openness. But when it comes to cybersecurity, certainly the status quo is not acceptable. And the market can't do all that needs doing, and governments should not do all that needs doing to ensure the safety and security of our experience in cyberspace. And for us in Homeland Security, this is the core challenge, finding the path again together and collaboratively. Because no department, no government can do all that needs doing. And all that needs doing certainly can't be done alone. And I look forward to the journey together. Thanks very much.